Hi there and welcome, educators. My name is Dr. Thomas Christener, and you will be participating today in a presentation called The Multiverse of Educational Technology, Boosting Engagement in Your Marvelous Classroom.
And my name is Dr. Mike McCabe, and I'm going to be your co-presenter.
I am a full-time online faculty member at Grand Canyon University in the College of Education. I am a certified secondary teacher and principal, and I have 14 years in education.
And I am also an online full-time faculty member here at Grand Canyon University in the College of Education. I'm a certified elementary school teacher and have taught in the Cartwright School District here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I was also a school counselor for 9 years in the same district. And I have 18 years in education.
All right, today we have some different objectives that we're going to cover. First, participants will channel their inner superhero during our presentation. Participants will also learn about the multiverse of educational technology, and participants will use the multiverse to end boredom and engage their students.
So this quote starts us off with a quote from Shuri from Black Panther. And it says, just because something works doesn't mean it can't be improved. And that's a good foundation and starting point for this presentation. Just because something works doesn't mean it can't be improved. And you'll see how that applies throughout our presentation today.
All right, for our agenda today, we have a couple of different things that we're going to be covering. The first one is the icebreaker. Then we're going to talk a little about UDL, which is the underlying framework of our presentation. Next, we're going to talk about technology tools and do some individual activities that will help you to get a little bit better understanding of using those technology tools. And then finally, we will be you'll be doing a group breakout session where you'll have the opportunity to use one of those technology tools as well. One thing that we both wanted to point out was the session handout. So I'm going to just open this so you can see what it looks like. You'll have access to this on the presentation by clicking that link. But this has the different links and QR codes that can be used to access all of the different tools that we're going to go over in this presentation. Along with this, you'll also find the presentation activities down here on page 2. And again, there's a QR code and a link. So you can access these using either your cell phone or a computer as we go through this. So make sure that you do open up this document and take a look at this so that you have access to all of these items.
All right, so to start us off, first you might notice that both myself and Dr. Thomas are wearing similar shirts. You can kind of check it out here. Since this is a marvelous presentation, we have matching Marvel shirts. You can't really tell from the picture, but if you were to look up closely, you would see all of the different Marvel symbols for like Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow, etc. So we did plan that and have dressed accordingly for our presentation today for you virtually. So the first thing is our icebreaker. And we want you to just think about what you would want your teaching superpower to be. So take a moment and think about what would be your teaching superpower. If you had one, what would you want it to be? Okay, so with that being said, there are some results from previous presentations that have gone over what they thought the superpowers would be. And you can access that through that QR code and some results that will pop up from previous presentations. So as they're loading here, you will see, here we go. This is a Mentimeter, which is one of the educational technologies that we are going to go over later in the presentation. But previous results have shown that teaching superpowers might want to be success for all, engaging, the gift of knowledge, telepathy, wisdom, guidance, healing. So as you enter in the results, or as they are used within the Mentimeter system, ones that repeat themselves tend to be a larger font within the Mentimeter system. Now, in the middle, you'll see read minds. And I don't know about you, but if you're teaching a middle school class, I'm not exactly sure you'd want to read minds of a middle school student, but to read minds to help them in their education and best practices to help guide them and assist them with their learning, that's where you might want that superpower to come into play. But the minds of a middle schooler may not be one that I want to venture in, especially being a former middle school counselor and teacher myself.
All right, so when you see this screen come up on the presentation, this is just a reminder to take a minute, reflect on what we've gone over, and we'll remind you about this as we go throughout our presentation, but we just wanted to point this out as we get started here. So as I shared, we do have an underlying presentation theme that we're going to be focusing on as a framework, and that is the Universal Design for Learning. So what this is Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, has three major components to it. So multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation, and multiple means of expression. Multiple means of engagement just is, are we giving students the opportunity to engage with material in a variety of ways? Multiple means of representation is, how are we presenting? How are we presenting material, and are we presenting material in multiple ways to impact all learners? And then finally, multiple means of expression has to do with how we are providing opportunities for students to express their learning. So are we giving students the opportunity to provide different items that they can use to present their knowledge? UDL is a great framework to take into practice, and the reason for us using UDL in our presentation is because we're really focusing on, in this presentation, on different ways of both engagement and representation and some expression with the different tools that we're going to be showing you, as the different tools each have slightly different purposes that can be used to relate to all of these different items. On the screen to the left here, there is a video. We're not going to play that right now. We're going to give you the opportunity, though, to go back and take a look at that video, and that's going to be the same throughout our presentation. The videos are embedded into the presentation for you to go back and take a look at once you have gone through the digital presentation. You're more than welcome, though, to go back and take a look at those, as those are all going to be helpful, but we are not going to be viewing the videos today that are embedded here. If needed, here is a link that you can access the video as well. And just take a moment, reflect on UDL before we move on. Think about what you saw from that video from watching it after you were able to pause and take a look at it. And then let's go ahead and get started and jump into how we can use some of these technology tools to benefit your marvelous classroom and create engagement and fight the villain of boredom. So our first tool that we have here is called Canva. Canva is a great tool. One, because Canva is free. Canva can be used to create a variety of visual representations, including infographic, posters, videos, newsletters, badges, presentations, etc. There's so many items that Canva can be used to create, and it's something that I use all the time in my online classes to help engage my students. The great thing about Canva is that there are preloaded items that include templates and icons and images and clip art, and you can also create QR codes directly in Canva and link a variety of other applications to it. And we'll talk a little bit later about one of those applications that you can link in there as we continue on. One thing to note is that each of our tools we've associated with one of the different stones from the Gauntlet of Power, or the Infinity Gauntlet, whatever you want to call it based on the timeline in Marvel. But this specific item associates with the space stone in our presentation. So what we're also going to do is just take also a quick look at what this tool looks like. This is the dashboard in Canva, and what you will see on your dashboard when you go in. This is actually my dashboard. And notice here you have a search bar. This is where you can search for templates and other items. Down here is where you would see the things that you've designed. And then up here, you can also have things shared with you and also be a part of a team. So if you wanted to work with other educators, you could create a team and share out your designs back and forth with them, so that you're not having to recreate the wheel every time you want to come up with something. This is an example of what the screen looks like in Canva when you are working. This is what I call a badge, and something that I provide my students the opportunity to earn by doing different activities in the classes that I teach. But just a couple of items over here I want to point out. So when you're on this screen, this first item here would be the templates. So you can click this and you can search for templates, change things up. Elements are items that are preloaded into Canva that you can access. One thing to note is that as an educator, you can receive a free version of Canva that is equivalent to the pro version of Canva, which gives you access to all of these items in Canva. If you're just using the free version available to everyone that would not be an educator, there are limits on the items that you can access, and there are things that you can't access without paying for those individually. So that's just something to know too. And to have access to Canva, that free educator account, you have to have a K-12 email address. Unfortunately, they don't offer that to university educators. That's something that we both can't get using our emails, but as a K-12 educator, it's definitely something you could get. Moving on down here, here's your text editor so that you can edit text in your designs, the QR code. This is one of those apps that you can link in here. It's called Pixton, and it's something we're going to go over a little bit later. It's a comic creator, but you can link it directly into Canva and insert comic characters into your Canva designs if you would so choose. And then down here is just the option with more that has additional options that you can use while creating. Up here, you'll see your share icon. This would be where you can share out your designs. So you can either download an image, a PDF, or get a link that can be shared out that could be either edited, commented on, or as view only. Just a note, when sharing out your designs, if you're sharing out through a link to your students, you want to always set those as view only. Otherwise, the students have the opportunity to edit those and change up what you've done. So just keep that in mind. If you have an LMS where you can embed information directly into the LMS, there is an embed, and you can find that here under share as well. These are some example items that I've created using Canva. These are some infographics in different ways that I have worked to integrate visual learning into my classroom through the use of Canva. And then down here, this is a quick activity that we'd like you to work on. So on your document from the that we discussed at the beginning of the presentation, you're going to have the opportunity to create your own intro card. This is my teacher introduction card. It's something I post in all my classes. The great thing about this is you can just change up a couple of things and use it in multiple contents, because really you're sharing the same thing. So you want to make sure that like the courses that you're teaching would be the same. So for example, if you're teaching social studies here, you would just say social studies. And then if you have, changes to like a high school history course, change the history name. But something that I frequently share out with my students in my class, and just something that could also be used to share out with parents as well, as just a fun visual way to help your students see information and have that information readily in their class. So on your document, you're going to see some pre-selected templates, and those will help you to make your own intro card. So take a moment, pause the presentation, explore Canva a little bit, and play with making your own intro card that you could then share out in your online classroom with your students. So we have so far discussed about, talked about Canva and how that can be used in the classroom to help us battle the villain of boredom and increase engagement for our students. Right now, we're going to jump into Mentimeter, and Dr. Mike's going to take over from here.
All right. So Mentimeter is what we used for our little icebreaker about what you'd want your superpower to be. So at your own time, you can view this little quick video. It's only about 30 seconds, but it's a really cool animation regarding Mentimeter and how it can help you build presentations, build confidence in your presentations, and learn a little bit about what the Mentimeter program has available to you. So as I mentioned, Mentimeter is a way for you to increase engagement with your students. We used it for the icebreaker today to form a word cloud. And that word cloud talked about what were the superpowers you would want to have as a teacher. So you could use that in, let's say, a social studies class where you would want to talk about maybe the topic of World War II or whatever. You can learn what students may already know, access prior knowledge with them. Then you could possibly use this in ELA or whatever subject that you could find where it is applicable, where you can create a word cloud. Then you can also use this to create interactive polls and surveys. You can create quizzes in Mentimeter. We already mentioned about making those word clouds, and it does enhance participation and engagement. And you'll see from the little video when you do watch it that you can find how this person that you see on the screenshot there overcomes her fear by using Mentimeter and reduces presenter stress. So it's one way that you can use the program in your classroom. And this does represent the soul stone of our Infinity or Power Gauntlet as we defeat the villain of boredom. And if you are a Marvel fan, boredom is Thanos in our presentation here. So moving on, you can see the different ways that Mentimeter is used from the dashboard in Mentimeter. So we created the live word cloud from the icebreaker. So you can do those. You can give the students a bit.ly, or you can give them a QR code. They can access it from their mobile device, or they can access it from a Chromebook or a computer, laptop, whatever, and just scan the QR code or type in the bit.ly so that they can engage with those word clouds or whatever with you. So there's a live polling tool. So if you want to determine, create some questions that promote engagement, or if you want to do some reflection wrap-up questions at the end of a lesson, you could create that. You could put it on the board, and it could kind of be used as an exit ticket to see what the students maybe learned during that day or that week or the unit or whatever. And you can kind of gauge for each classroom or each period, if you have multiple classes, where the students are at currently, and maybe where you might need to go back and do some reteaching or think about some tier 2 interventions for the students. So there are quizzes, and it does give you the results of the quizzes where you can do an interactive quiz with your class. And it's a survey maker as well, where you can create surveys to use with your students in the Mentimeter program. So there are lots of different uses for it, and it is a good way, like I said, to engage your students, and you can have them use it to create different projects and apply it within their learning and within your classroom. Okay, so far we've talked about UDL, we've talked about Canva, and now we've talked about Mentimeter. So this is a time to reflect and pause your video and maybe think of a way that you could integrate Canva into your own classroom, maybe something that you could do within the next few days, or maybe something over the next week. Could you use Mentimeter to promote engagement? Could you use it as an exit ticket? How could you maybe apply that in your own classroom? So just take a moment, pause the video, and reflect on some ways that you might be able to use either or both of these two educational tools within your classroom within a upcoming time frame.
All right, our next tool that we will be covering is called Flip, formerly known as Flipgrid. Flip, the name changed recently. So this associates directly with the Mind Stone in the Marvel Universe, which will definitely help us in fighting that villain of boredom. Flip is a free asynchronous video communication platform. It allows for asynchronous discussion that can occur between students and also between teachers and student as well. Teachers have the ability to respond and grade student responses. And the great thing is you can set your groups in Flip with permissions so that you have to review videos before they are posted to help with stopping inappropriate content from being posted to your groups by students. This is what a dashboard in Flip looks like, and this is something we'll be using a little bit later in our presentation to help you explore. What you'll see here, you can add prompts. You can also add GIFs and images to help engage your students more. Besides this, you can set your groups to also include like a video prompt to help them. So you could pre-record a video of yourself, letting your students know what you're going to be covering in your group, and then your students could then respond, and then you can go back in and respond to each of your students as you continue on. This also is what it looks like from the educator dashboard. So this shows you the different groups that you have. These are two groups that I have going for these different presentations that I've been working on, and this gives you the opportunity to see what it looks like. Flip is a great tool. Couple of quick reminders about Flip: it's free. It is easy to integrate into a classroom. It can be embedded directly into an LMS, and you can also create other videos that aren't groups as well using Flip. It also gives you the opportunity to use backgrounds and some different tools as well. So what we'd like you to do right now is just take a moment, reflect on how you could integrate Flip into your classroom, maybe through some discussion or using it as a video tool, share information with your students. Whatever way you choose to use Flip is a great thing that can help to increase engagement in your classroom, and something that we have seen as a positive in online teaching. Loom is also another video recording software. The great thing about Loom is this is also a free software, and as an educator, you can get a free version of Loom by having an EDU email, an educational email address, whether it be a university or K-12 email address. Loom has a capability to screen capture and take just a video of yourself as well. It's a great tool to use for communication with parents and students. If you wanted to send a quick video out to your parents explaining something, or as a way to welcome your students into the classroom, provides great opportunity for that. The great thing about this is only the person that has the Loom link can see the video. So these are not searchable videos. You can set that as a preference so that the videos can be searched on the internet, but the way that the videos are pre-loaded after you've recorded them, they stay as unsearchable, and that's something you would have to go in and change to make them searchable. This associates with the Power Stone from in the Marvel Universe, and hopefully can help to give us some power as educators for both communication with teachers and parents. Couple of items that I've included here, some screenshots of what some videos can look like in Loom. And the other thing that you can do is you can download a Loom video, and then, like, if you have a YouTube channel, upload it into that YouTube channel as well. I use Loom personally, and I know Dr. Mike does too in our classes. I use it to record instructional videos for my students on like assignments or how-to videos, and sometimes even providing feedback on an assignment that a student has submitted if they need a little bit more of an explanation. It's an easy way to say, well, here's what you have done on your assignment. Here's what I'm really looking for you to do on an assignment. So it's just another great way that you can enhance communication. The other great thing about Loom is there's two versions. There's a desktop version and a web-based Chrome version that you can use. I prefer the desktop version because then you can pull up any document on your screen and record. If you use the Chrome version, you're kind of limited into what is in your Chrome window when recording. So just a couple of items to keep in mind there. All right, so we've covered Loom now. Take a moment, pause, think about how you can start to integrate some video into your classroom, whether that be Flip, Loom, or maybe even creating a video on Canva or uploading a Loom video into Canva and then sharing that out with your students as well. Because Canva can also be used to create video as well. It's something that I didn't cover earlier, but just wanted to point that out as well.
All right, and we'll go into Kahoot, but one thing I wanted to mention with the Loom videos is I remember being in elementary and middle school quite a while ago, and they used to have a homework helpline. And the homework helpline was where maybe I don't remember us having agendas or anything like that. So you would get home and you would forget about, oh no, what did my math teacher assign us for homework? So you used to have to call into this phone number and find out what your math homework was, and they would record, you're doing problems 1 through 30 odds on page 250 or whatever it was. This is also a great way for using Loom is if you know that a student is going to have issues or maybe trouble with a concept, and you can kind of anticipate those questions, you might be able to upload a live or a link with Loom that the students can access where they can see you do an example, and they can go back, review it at home while they're doing their homework and go, oh yeah, I remember how I did that last night on my math homework, or whatever it might be, so that they can just have that. You record a short video, show them the example, or talk about the expectations of a project or whatever, and they can go back and review it, and it's just there for them. So just a little additional piece of some of the functionality of Loom and some benefits of it. So the next one is Kahoot. Now, this is one where we find that a lot of people have either heard of it or they have used it before, or maybe their children have used it before. Maybe if you have children, if they've used it in their classroom. This is one that became a little bit more popular during online learning, remote learning, where students are able to engage in learning games. And Kahoot is something where you can create quizzes, promote engagement, host trivia games. So it's something that might be able to use as a reward or preferred activity time in a class, or you could use it just as a wrap up or review to a unit or lesson before the students take an assessment. So you can also use this for fun as an adult. And I've used it where we've been able to play games remotely with friends, where you have like a trivia night. You can use this for a trivia time where you can get people together on a Zoom link, or get people together just to play and have fun. This could also be used for adults if you're having a get together on a weekend, or a happy hour or something like that, where you can create quizzes, just have fun, engage with your friends. And like I said, this is a great way to engage your students in the classroom and let them have a little bit fun with it. So it reinforces knowledge because you are doing reviews. It could be used as an icebreaker where there's some questioning that happens. You can use it on a mobile device. You can use it on a laptop with a bit.ly with a QR code. So there's multiple ways for students to access this. And it is a way for students just to increase that engagement, have fun with it, and be able to use it to access prior knowledge or review content as you're preparing for an assessment. So with Kahoot, this is on the time stone, and this is another one of our stones that we are going to add to the Infinity or Power Gauntlet. And then on the next screen, there's a video that you can watch at your own leisure. It shows you a few of the examples as to how you can use Kahoot. And then the way that you set this up is you can create your own quiz, or you can find preloaded quizzes. Now, the caveat to that and kind of a disclaimer is that, let's say you are teaching an ELA lesson on expository text. You want to make sure that when you're pulling a preloaded quiz that you want to check the questions and answers beforehand, make sure it's something you covered, you reviewed. You don't want there to be information that the students haven't learned yet if you're doing a review, or maybe if it's an introduction to the lesson that you can go and kind of assess what students know, assess their prior knowledge. But the easiest way is to create your own so you can tailor it the way that you want to use it for your lesson. But like I did say, there are ones that you can find that are out there that are pre-created if you don't want to reinvent the wheel. Just like I said, do review those to make sure that they are exactly what you want to be reviewing with your students to make sure it's appropriate for the grade level, the content, etc. Okay, so with Kahoot, you can pause the video at this time. If you have a Kahoot account, you can access it. If you need to create one, you can just go on, do Google search of Kahoot, or I believe it's kahoot.com, and you can explore what is available there and think of maybe a way that you could use this in your classroom. If you are an educator and you are going to be teaching a certain content area, you can maybe explore those content areas that there's already preloaded quizzes, see if there's anything that might be able to work for you. Or if you want to explore it and create your own at your own time, you can go ahead and see maybe how you could go about creating one of the Kahoots to use as maybe a fun engagement activity or review to a lesson or unit that you could implement in the near future.
Hey, Dr. Mike, I have a quick question for you since you're our resident Kahoot expert.
Sure.
And I know it's something that comes up frequently. When using this in an online classroom, how do you manage to get it to work for your students? And do you have to constantly monitor it and reset it for those quizzes? And can you just maybe touch on how that works briefly?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dr. Thomas, because once you create the Kahoot quiz, pretty much that link stays active, that students can access that link at any time. So if the students are taking the class remotely, you can have them access that quiz at any time, and they can take it on their own time. It doesn't have to be all the students taking the quiz at the exact same time. They can access it. Maybe they have time later that evening if it's a quiz that you're going to have them take to access prior knowledge. They can take it whenever. The only thing is that the link does require some updating, but I have used a quiz in one of my online classes now, and I've been using it for over a year, and I've not had to update the permissions. So if you do run into that chance where the student says, the link doesn't work anymore, you just have to go back in and update the permissions, and it might require you to update the password, because there's somewhere you can make it password enabled where they access the link and maybe they type in a password or whatever to access it. You might just have to update the password and then update your master document or update the way that you send out the communication to your students for them to be able to access the Kahoot. But like I said, I've been using Kahoot in one of my classes, all the sections of it that I teach, like I said, for almost a year, over a year now, actually. And the students have not had any issues playing the Kahoot I actually use it for accommodations and modifications for students in the classroom. So they don't have any issues with that. That's a great question. So just check permissions in case that does happen. It can, but it's pretty easy fix.
All right. Well, thanks for clearing that up, Dr. Mike. I know those of us that aren't super familiar with Kahoot, that's a question that comes up pretty frequently that we hear from teachers when talking about Kahoot. This next tool that we want to share with you is a really cool tool. it is associated with our reality stone because it can help us to bring some reality into our classrooms and help us to defeat that villain of boredom. And what it is, it's called Pixton, and Pixton is a web-based software where teachers and students can create comics. The great thing is that you can create your own avatar and insert yourself into your comics to help engage your students. Teachers can also use the multitude of lesson ideas and interactive rubrics and printables that are included in Pixton as well. And this can also be used as an assessment tool to assess formatively, summatively, or as a diagnostic assessment as well, because you can have students create their own comics to show their knowledge of what you're learning in the class that you're teaching. The last item here on this page says this is a paid software. So keep that in mind, but it's a really cool paid software. So if you can talk your administrator at your school into getting like a school-wide account, this would be a great thing. But if you wanted to just pay for it yourself, it's about $100. It's $100 a year, and this is something that I personally pay for myself because it just came to a point where I could no longer teach without it in my classes. And at a certain point, it was free to use with so many functions, but then they set it to be behind a paywall. So with that being said, what I want to do is just show you how you can use this in your classroom. So these are some examples of some little comic squares I've created up here if you follow that mouse. And then this is something that you can do with your students in the classroom and something that we can do right now together. So what you want to do is you can create your own avatar. So after I've finished talking about this, pause the video, and then you can go ahead and get set up. So what you want to do is you want to go to this link. It's called join. It's joinpixton.com. You're going to join the class using your Google account. You're going to make an avatar. And then once you've done that, it will add the avatar to a class photo that I'm not sure how you'll be able to see it because I'm not sure if you will have access to it. You may have access to that class after the fact to go back in and see the class photo, but it's a cool example of an activity that you could do with your students in your classroom. These are our avatars. This is me, this is Dr. Mike, and we kind of tested this out to see how it would work, and it worked pretty seamlessly when we tested it out with Dr. Mike joining the class and creating his avatar. And then this was the photo from that first class photo we attempted. So again, just a cool way to kind of introduce your students to Pixton and to help them to begin to think about what they can create and what you can create to help to engage your students in the classroom. So go ahead, pause your video, work on getting your avatar created, play a little bit around with Pixton and see how you like it, and then see if it's something that you would like to integrate into your classroom. Here again is that way that you can join that class that we've set up. And then this is an example of a comic that I use in my classes at the university. So notice here a couple of things. I've had some questions in the past about, well, wouldn't it be the same thing if I just used Bitmoji and did this myself? It would be similar, but it would cause you a great amount of work because the great thing about Pixton is it provides the backgrounds. It does the thought bubbles automatically once you've typed out your messages to include in there. And then it gives you the opportunity to manipulate each of the slides and change like the hand motions, you notice you can zoom in and zoom out and get a closer up shot in your comic. It also provides you with the opportunity to change the settings. So if you're teaching like a historical unit on, let's say you're teaching on something like prehistoric ages, there's a whole set of backgrounds and items that you can integrate that would focus on prehistoric time. There's tons and tons of different items that you can change up. And the other thing that I mentioned earlier is this integrates directly into Canva so that you can pull pre-made characters and drop them into your Canva. If you wanted to put your own characters into Canva, you'd have to upload those individually from what I've observed from it. But it's still something that you could do into Canva, and that's how I created that teacher introduction card, was using Pixton to create my avatar and then dropping that into Canva. All right. So up next, we have our group activity. You're not going to have a sticker in this virtual presentation, but what you can do is we want you to pick one of the technologies that we've talked about. And if you are working with a partner, think about and discuss that technology. What did you like about the technology? How do you see yourself using this technology in the future, in your future classroom, and kind of have that conversation about what that will be like if you're working with a partner. If not, think about these items on your own and get those things written down and documented so that you can evaluate one of the items that we've previously talked about.
And then what you will do is, after you have thought about those 5 educational technologies that we talked about, you only have to choose one. So if you want to reflect on more, if you are doing this by yourself and you want to review multiple, that is perfectly fine. But we're only asking that you do one of the educational technologies, and you can find yourself, if you have time, where you can record yourself talking about one of them using a Flipgrid. Use this QR code, and what you'll do is those questions that we proposed to you: what was your educational technology? What did you like about it? And how do you see yourself being able to implement this in a classroom? You can scan that with your QR code and just create a 30-second maximum video, very, very brief, because Flip is meant to be very brief. It's not supposed to be this long, drawn out, big, long YouTube video. So you can create a 30-second video just addressing those 3 questions that we proposed to you, and just play around with Flip, see how it works. Maybe you've used it before and you're familiar with the functionality of Flip. Maybe it's your first time using it. So you can just kind of see how the platform works and record yourself, and you can upload your 30-second video to the Flip and just try it out and see if you like it, and if it's something you think you might be able to use with your students and maybe your students' families.
Excellent. Well, I wanted to just point out one thing here. When you're trying to log into Flip, notice it says join with Microsoft, join with Google. You don't have to do that because I've been able to guess password on this Flip. So what you need to do is grab this password down here, Marble 2022 with an asterisk, type it just as it appears with all the capital letters, type it into the password field, and then click go, and then that will log you in to the Flipgrid. And notice we have a couple of responses here already. Feel free to answer these 3 questions like Dr. Mike talked about before. And to do that, all you need to do is click add your response. The great thing about this is it gives you an idea of what it looks like for when a student would use this. I just wanted to provide one more caveat on Flip. My daughter used this during the shutdowns. She was in kindergarten. And we got to a point where she started telling me, Dad, go away. I don't need your help anymore to make my Flipgrid videos. So easy that a kindergartner go in and operate it on their own because it's just some simple clicks and it's all-in-one video recording. You don't have to go somewhere, record a video and upload it. You can, but you don't have to because it has a video recorder built into it. So it's just a great way to engage your students in asynchronous discussion or for you to create videos as well.
Also, one other thing to add to Flip that we didn't discuss in the presentations, you can set up grids for being something that is done daily, or you could set it up for something that is done for a week, or you can set up a monthly grid where there's different prompts that the students can respond to. So the way that Dr. Thomas and I use this in one of our courses that we both teach the same course is that we include a grid that the students are able to answer a daily prompt, and they can choose any day of the month, and it's set up on a monthly basis, and they can go in and engage with other classmates, and then we're able to see it and respond to them on that grid. So you could use this if you were doing a long unit, a PBL. You could use it for a week if you wanted them to engage at home, get some engagement with the content. They can engage with their family and have them join in as well. And just like I said, very, very brief videos. These aren't meant to be long. And You can even assign it for it being as part of participation. So however you feel that it might work for you, there's many different options, but it's just a fun way to engage with your students and have them be able to access the technology from somewhere other than the classroom. With all of these educational technologies, all of them combined, we have collected all of the Infinity Stones. We've added them to the Infinity Gauntlet or the Power Gauntlet, whatever you want to call it for this presentation. And Boredom, who is, like I said, Thanos, is now defeated. And we hope that with these educational technologies, you have found additional ways to engage your students, evoke engagement with them, promote engagement with them, and hopefully be able to defeat boredom and reduce the amount of boredom that may be present there by giving them multiple ways to access different educational technologies that you might be able to use with your students.